today we're doing something special. We're getting a frozen collection stored off of one of our studs here. It's kind of a big deal, so stay tuned. What's going on, Bully fam? It's your boy, Mr. Double Muscle Line Bulls. Got Double Muscle Line Air here. So we on the road right now. We got, I don't know if you guys can see. Don't mind the car, it's messy. Got Crossbones with us. He's like tucked behind my seat. But anyway, so we've been trying to have this like appointment scheduled for, it's been probably at least like 2-3 months now. But every time we try to make the appointment, we wind up having like either a breeding or something like that. So finally we have we were able to make our appointment today. So we are taking our stud Crossbones to get a frozen collection off of him. What is a frozen collection? When you're storing frozen off of a stud dog, essentially what you're doing is you're preserving the semen so that then you can use it at a much later date. You can even use the semen when the stud is no longer here. When the stud, say, passes on you, God forbid, dies, you can still use that semen and essentially breed the dog beyond the grave. So anyway, that's what we're doing right now. And I highly recommend, like, if a dog, like Crossbones plays a humongous part in our program. So if a dog plays a very big part in your program, you should have frozen stored off of the dog. Like, to me, that's like no questions asked. So because if the dog unfortunately passes, there goes a large part of your program. So that's what we're doing right now. So essentially what we're gonna do is and this vet, I've been there like once or twice. So I like the vibe that I got from the vet. She's very knowledgeable. We'll see the service as far as how they take care of us and things like that. But yeah, I mean, hopefully they'll let me record, everything. But so yeah, what they do is they collect from the stud dog. They take the semen, they evaluate the semen. Obviously looking at sperm counts, motility, morphology, things like that. But just to get a general idea that it's good quality semen, that it's not like all dead or something like that. And I'm learning more and more about this. I'm not like super knowledgeable when it comes to this. Hopefully the vet, just from the few talks we've had, she's informed me and given me a lot more information. But they cryogenically like preserve it. So essentially, like, you can't just collect from your stud dog and throw it in the freezer. Like, it don't work like that. I think they use like some type of like equivalent of like a liquid nitrogen or some shit, and they store it in these like these cryogenic containers. The semen gets frozen, not chilled. Chilled is when you're shipping the semen. It's cooled down and the sperm is slowed down, but it's not frozen. What they're doing in this procedure is they're freezing the semen. So when the semen's frozen, it can be stored, from my understanding, it can be stored for like almost like a lifetime. Like, I've heard of people who have frozen semen 20 years plus. So there's some questions as far as like, so from what the vet explained to me is you get and you have to pay yearly for this. So when they collect from Crossbones now, I'm going to be paying a yearly fee. I think it's like $100 or something like that. And I just look at it as like an insurance policy, because there's no insurance in this dog game. There's no, anything can happen, and unfortunately you have to think that way. And this is one of the few things that you can insure and guarantee that you'll always have semen off of your stud dog. There's people who maybe lock in the dog and yet again say the dog is maybe too busy. Maybe the dog is too busy. They can opt to use the frozen. Now with the frozen, you have to do a surgical though. I believe you can't do regular AI with it. It has to be a surgical. So that's one thing. But like I said, if the dog's out of the country, or say the dog is just being bred a lot, there you go. You can use the frozen. So it's a little, like I said, it's a little more involved, but hopefully the doc will answer all our questions, and we'll go for that. That's just a little background information. Oh, and I'm gonna be dropping the semen evaluation kits. I'm very excited about it. I've been working on this. The semen evaluation kits are gonna go hand in hand with our microscopes. We would recommend to have a compound light microscope like ours. But if you already have a microscope, you can still use this kit as well. I don't know if this kit works with those like little penta microscopes, but anyway, the semen evaluation kit will allow you to look at the morphology, the motility, and get the sperm count, because it's more than just looking at semen on a microscope. And the vet will probably show that as well today. But like I said, getting the counts so you know if your stud is producing enough good quality semen. So stay tuned for that, and I guess we'll tap you guys back in when we get to the vet.
We're also going to print out the full semen evaluation,
okay.
And then when we have the post-thaw evaluation, we're going to send you an email with that post-thaw evaluation and how many breeding units that does or does not equate to, depending on how they wake up and recover.
Gotcha.
So you'll have a printable proof of that with our name all over that.
All right,
well.
perfect.
Yeah,
all right, sounds great.
Yeah.
But yeah, he doesn't need a teaser.
Okay.
He's pretty good.
Awesome.
As I was telling her, I think he's got like 200 kids now or something like that. So,
okay.
All
right. Popular sire.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay.
So I'm not super familiar with like the freezing process. So how does it equate with the whole like straws thing and?
Absolutely, yeah. So what we do here is we freeze about 100 million sperm cells per straw.
Okay.
So it's regardless of how many of them are actually swimming and how many of them are morphologically normal.
Okay.
So the average minimum for a male output is going to be 10 million per pound.
Okay.
So let's say he's about maybe 30 pounds, then the minimum output 300 million. If he's a really good producer, then you'll get 600 million.
Okay.
So that equates then to 3 straws or 6 straws, 100 million per.
Okay.
A post-thaw breeding dose is a minimum of 100 million that are forward progressive and morphologically normal.
Okay.
So we're going to do a full morphology and see how many of them are normal. What we look for is at least 70%, preferably 80% normal morphology.
Gotcha.
And then what we hope for is, again, at least 70, preferably 80% of them that are motile and swimming forward. So there's progressive motility and then there's general motility.
Yeah.
So like general motility, if it's swimming in place, it's not progressive, it's actually not helpful to the numbers that we care about.
Gotcha.
So let's say, if we're just running some quick math, he gives out 600 million today. Let's say that there's 80% of them that are swimming, and let's say that there's 80% of them that are morphologically normal. So now you're working in the realm of about 400 million forward progressive, normal morphology forward progressive before the freeze process.
Gotcha.
Still making 6 straws out of those 600 million.
Okay.
Then we're gonna have a little half straw, and we're gonna wake that up to see how it does.
Gotcha. As a tester.
So that way, I know the normal morphology already, unless something drastically changes in the post-thaw. Now, not all dogs freeze well.
Okay.
Some dogs freeze better than others. Some dogs freeze well at some times and don't freeze well at other times, like if they've had any kind of inflammatory or steroids or again, so taking off of medications, depending on what they may or may not affect, is sometimes beneficial.
Okay.
If he's had any kinds of illnesses, if there is any kind of inflammatory thing going on, or his prostate's a little angry or anything like that can negatively impact the freezability on that.
Gotcha.
So every sample is going to be different, and then we have a different freezing protocol and media than you might find at another facility, such as the ICSB, International Canine Semen Bank.
Okay.
So depends on what products you use, what you're familiar with,
Yeah.
and every dog is different and how they respond to which ones.
Okay. One other question is when now you're doing the semen evaluation for like the morphology, the motility, things like that. What do you guys use? Do you guys use like an iSperm or is it?
I have something called Sperm Vision. It's a mini tube product, so it has the upgradable qualities.
They're like the best. So,
and I'm like, the only thing that I haven't added is fluorescein staining, so that we're not doing like radioactive stuff with it.
Gotcha. Yeah. Because I use their extended. They're the best. So that's awesome. That's all I needed to know.
Okay. So again, you'll get a printout of his pre-freeze evaluation, and then the post-thaw will be written up in an email that we'll send to you. And so where I was getting at, if we freeze 6.5 straws, we wake up at 0.5, originally 80% normal morphology, originally 80% motility, but let's say it wakes up only at 60% motility. So we know there's 100 million in the straw. We know that there's 60% of them that are motile, so about 60 million, and then 80% of them that should be morphologically normal. So you're at about 50 million normal morphology forward progressive in one straw. We talked about a minimum breeding dose being 100 million morphologically normal forward progressive, so you would want at least 2 straws to make a breeding dose. Frozen semen just needs to be put in the uterus. So obviously, most people aren't going to necessarily have the training for a trans cervical insemination, which is a video scope and a catheter that you place through the cervix while they're standing and awake. As opposed to other people will have the availability and the skills for doing a surgical insemination. So most commonly you're going to come across people that are capable of performing a surgical insemination. So that's what they're used to.
What is your preference when it comes to?
I prefer not doing surgery unless I have to. So the times that I preserve surgical inseminations is when I have a frozen semen sample that's from 15 years ago and the male is long dead. And let's say that the female has had difficulties getting pregnant and has been bred multiple different methodologies with fresh chilled and with TCIs and never got pregnant. Those will be the ones that I will take the surgical insemination route, whether that be with a frozen sample or even sometimes with the fresh chilled.
I'm the same way. I prefer to either do a TCI or an AI. I don't like doing surgicals, and especially in this breed,
in this breed,
So that's great. I didn't know you could do that with frozen, so that's great to know. And then the storage is
here on premises.
Oh, perfect. All right, that's great. That's all I needed to know. So that yet again, if I needed shipped,
and then
it's here.
In those circumstances, obviously, the more planning that we have ahead of time, the better. So if you know somebody called you because they're out of town, and you know you're going to be out of town, and the breeding's not supposed to take place until next week, give us a call as soon as you know, so that things can be put into the proper packaging and jars.
Of course. I tell my clients all the time. I said you have to let me know when she's first in heat. Otherwise.
Your poor planning is not my problem.
Exactly.
Well, and then the time to do it is while they're young and producing. A lot of times I have folks that'll come in with their 10, 12, 13-year-old animal, and they're like, I never got around to it. And I'm like, well, it might be too late, but here's to hoping. My room was just across from the dermatologist when I was doing my residency. All right, sir.
All right, and we're back. So I dropped off double muscle line and I put crossbones away. I just wanted to come and kind of give you guys my final thoughts. Unfortunately, the doc wouldn't allow us to record during the collection process. Completely understandable. Not all vets are going to want to be recorded, and I don't have much of a rapport with her. This is really like my first time going to this facility. I have my own vet that I deal with, but they don't freeze. So as I build up more rapport with them, maybe send more people their way, visit a few more times, maybe I can sneak y'all in and let y'all see what the freezing process is like. But in the meantime, I'm gonna put like a little clip somewhere around here so you guys can go ahead and see kind of like what's involved to a degree. I think my general overall thoughts on it is, if you have a stud that plays a humongous role in your program, to me it's like a no-brainer. There's no insurance in dog breeding whatsoever. You can buy all the dog insurance you want, but there's no insurance on the lives of these animals. There's no insurance on our lives that we'll be here tomorrow. Nothing's guaranteed. So if you can ensure that at least a key stud, an important stud in your program, that your program, say, maybe even revolves around that stud, it only naturally makes sense to have some frozen off that dog, because that's the only insurance you can have in this dog game. Yeah, I can't really think of anything else as far as like that will ensure your generations to come. So I think it's an amazing thing. I think it's a cost-effective thing. Me and Double Muscle Line Ant, we're talking about something which I think I'm going to do another episode on later, which is there's also now something as far as you can actually clone a dog as well. I'm not going to go too deep into that now, but like I said, which is for my bully people that already heard about it. Like I said, I'm going to do an episode on it. But yeah, I mean, that's something new, but extremely expensive. I mean, I think when I spoke to the people, I believe it's like 30 to 50 grand, something like that. To freeze a dog, I think it's like, depending on where you're at, your locale, could be anywhere between maybe $200 to $600, something like that, depending on, where you're at. So I think that's really it, guys. Like I said, I think if you have a key stud in your program, you should definitely consider freezing. The process is really cool. I mean, they can store it. They said they had dog semen stored from like the 80s, 20 years plus, and the semen is still, I mean, A1 from what the doc was telling me. Which is like amazing. So you can be so many generations down the line, and you can bring back an important dog, say that maybe was very proponent, meaning like when I say that, like was very known and through a specific trait very strongly in his breedings, that you need to go back to that and bring that back in. Things like that. Or a good thing for freezing as well is, say you have people overseas that need the semen, and especially with COVID now, the timing on that, trying to ship chilled, I wouldn't even bother. I would just try to do frozen, especially like if they're like very, very far away, I'll try to go with frozen. So then you could do that, so then you don't have to worry about, you pay all this money, do all this, send chilled, and then something happens at customs, it sits for another week or so, whatever, it dies. I don't know. So that's just my thoughts. I hope I got everything in this video. Like I said, I do plan on recording more of the freezing process, because I find it super interesting. I would love to learn how to do it, buy the stuff and do it myself. Maybe that sounds crazy. Hey, if anybody knows, send me the information for sure. I'll give you a free Breeders' Hacks hoodie. But no, seriously, I find it very intriguing. I want to learn more about it. It's completely different from sending chilled. Sending chilled, you're just sending in some ice packs. I mean, this is very, very high tech. They have to do a semen evaluation prior, just to even make sure that the semen, and from what the doc explained to me, each dog, their semen can freeze differently. So it's like I said, I would love to learn more about it and show you guys as well as when I learn more. And I think that's really it. So I hope this episode was helpful. I hope it was useful. I hope I've seen this happen so many times, that people have a key stud in their dog, they don't freeze it, unfortunately the dog passes, and they never were able to do what they set out to do in this dog game. If you're collecting stud fees on your dog and he is a key dog in your program, and I say this all the time, and I hate that I see that the dogs unfortunately do pass and the person didn't get to do what they wanted to do. Freeze some semen off of the dog. This is my rule of thumb. If the dog plays a key part of the program, off of the first stud fee that I collect before the money goes to anything else, whether it goes back into the program, anything like that, that dog's stud fee pays for its own frozen collection. That's my new motto across the board for any of the studs that are like key important studs. Or it's an option you can even offer, say, to your clients, where you could say, hey, you know what, if you want, you pay this fee, you can have frozen saved off the dog. I even know people who had so much frozen saved off their dogs that they would sell breedings off of the frozen, even though the dog has already passed. So, all right, I don't want to go on a tangent, but just be mindful, guys. You do have options out there. There are forms of insurance to insure the future generations of your program through your from the key studs in your program that you have. So I hope this information was helpful. I hope it was useful, and I'll see you guys on the next episode of Breeders Hacks. I just wanted to show y'all real quick. So because we be taking the road trips in the double muscle mobile, my wife decided to clean the car, but she left me notes first. These notes are really more so for Ant and for Jonathan, but she said she's gonna so yeah, so shout out to the missus. We almost there though.